Everyone craves the crown, but few survive its weight. Alexander and Churchill paid the real price for power. What if greatness isn't about winning, but enduring the burden that breaks most men? Before you, Alexander's ambition blazes, a force that bent the world to his will. Across the centuries, Churchill's voice rings out, a sentinel against despair, a steward of hope beneath the darkest skies. These two did not inherit greatness. They shouldered it, step by harrowing step. You arrived believing power is a gift or a prize, a spark that burns only for the chosen. But their stories reveal another truth. The crown is a test, and its weight is the proving ground. Every conquest, every decision, forges a burden that can make or unmake the legend within. Follow their path, and you will see. Greatness is not the absence of fear or doubt, but the courage to keep walking with the world upon your shoulders. The journey begins where the burden is heaviest. Will you take up the fire and shape it, or be shaped by it? Power is a summons that echoes across centuries, a fire kindled by dreamers, conquerors, survivors. Alexander's ambition blazed from boyhood, flaring outward until the known world burned with his name. Churchill's voice, a clarion in the dark, called forth hope where even history seemed exhausted. Their stories begin with the same question: what if you refuse to shrink before the impossible? But within that question lies danger, the spark that promises more than glory. Every legend begins with a longing, a hunger that can lift a soul or scorch it to ash. What will you risk for a chance at greatness? The world whispers, "Rise," yet every step upward draws you deeper into the fire. Tonight, the fire waits for you. It is not the crown that makes the king, but the courage to bear the heat, the weight, the doubt. The burden of responsibility is the gate through which all greatness must walk, and every legend is forged on the other side. We are taught to believe that greatness is an inheritance, bestowed upon the chosen, the bold, the unbreakable. Alexander's ascent was meteoric, his path lined with prophecy and expectation. Churchill, too, seemed marked by fate, his childhood shadowed by the ghosts of empire and the roar of ancient wars. Yet in the silent hours, before the armies marched, before the world listened, each stood alone with his own doubts. The world's gaze may anoint a king, but it cannot silence the voice that questions, the heart that trembles, the mind that fears the burden's true cost. The myth of destiny shatters in solitude, replaced by the raw test of resolve. Here lies the hidden truth. Destiny is not delivered, it is endured. Power is not a gift, it is an unending trial. What you carry in the night, your doubts, your worries, these are the crucible where legends are made and broken. The summit of power is not a single peak, but a range of jagged stone, each victory demanding another climb, each choice weighed by the lives, the futures, the hopes of those who follow. Alexander pressed forward, never sated, conquering land after land. Churchill bore the silent weight of millions through storms of steel and shadow. The higher they rose, the heavier the burden became. Every triumph brought new enemies, every solution bred new crises. The flame that first inspired became a furnace, testing not only their strength, but their willingness to pay the unending price. Every decision forged chains of consequence, binding their fate to the fate of all who walked behind. Here is the central jewel. True greatness is measured not by the heights reached, but by the burdens accepted. The heaviest crown is worn by those who dare to carry others with them, and who do not turn away when the fire demands more. Most believe that with every triumph, the weight should lessen, that mastery brings relief. But Alexander's victories left him haunted, always reaching for another world. Churchill's steadfastness under siege forged not peace, but a deeper sense of what could still be lost. The higher the ascent, the more isolating the journey. The illusion of arrival gives way to the reality of sacrifice. Friends fall away, nights lengthen, and the victories once sweet become tinged with sorrow. Power is not a fortress, it is exposure, a reckoning with every ghost and shadow left behind. The farther you travel, the fewer stand beside you. The more you lead, the more silent becomes the path. In this solitude, the burden reveals its last secret. Greatness is not about how many follow, but how you walk alone when the world falls silent. The cost of ambition is never counted in gold, but in the echoing emptiness where only courage and conscience remain. There comes a moment in every journey when the myth of invincibility collapses, when the crown feels heaviest and even giants bow beneath its weight. Alexander staring into the emptiness beyond his last conquest. Churchill bracing against nights that seem to last forever. Both face the question, what is left when the world is conquered but peace cannot be found? It is here, in the pause between storms, that clarity sharpens. The burden cannot be escaped, but it can be understood. What matters is not the vastness of the empire, nor the number of victories, but the simple, stubborn will to continue, to bear what must be borne, and to shape meaning from struggle. In the silent forge of endurance, a new vision emerges. True greatness is not the absence of suffering, but the transformation of burden into wisdom. Here, responsibility ceases to be a weight and becomes the stone on which legacy is carved. But the path of power does not end at endurance. It bends and deepens into paradox. For Alexander, the world once mapped now unravels into mystery. For Churchill, victory offers no rest, only the next, more daunting test. Every answer births a new riddle. Every conquered fear is met by another waiting in shadow. As fire meets stone and wind stirs ashes, an unsettling truth emerges. The burden is not only yours, it is every leader's, every dreamer's, every soul who dares to shape the world instead of drifting through it. The responsibility that seemed crushing becomes a shared torch, passed from hand to trembling hand, lighting the dark for those who come after. This is the metaphysical twist. The burden of responsibility is not an anchor, but a bridge. When you choose to carry it, you do not merely endure. You ignite the path for others, becoming both bearer and beacon, both stone and flame. All rivers of trial, ambition, and endurance merge here, in the crucible where the burden becomes the crown and the seeker becomes the sovereign. Alexander's fire, Churchill's resolve, your own silent struggles, all converge at this final gate. Through conquest and collapse, through shadow and stone, you have seen that greatness is not bestowed, but chosen, hour by hour, burden by burden. The legends that echo are not those who avoided the weight, but those who allowed it to remake them, forging clarity from chaos, strength from trial, and wisdom from pain. Now you stand at the threshold. The burden of responsibility is no longer the price of power, but the foundation of true sovereignty. To carry it is to become more than conqueror or survivor. It is to shape the story that endures, to crown yourself in meaning, and to lead not just with might, but with depth. The journey forward is yours. The fire has burned, the path has twisted through conquest and collapse. The riddle of greatness, whispered in the shadows of Alexander and Churchill, now stands clear before you, fallen king. The journey began with a hunger for the crown, an ache to rise, to command, to outshine history itself. Yet it was not the victories or the empires that revealed the secret, but the burden endured, the silence faced, the trials that demanded more than strength. The mystery was never about power alone. It was about the weight that forges or shatters, the crown that costs everything and yet gives meaning to the struggle. What you sought was never glory. It was sovereignty of the self. The true price of power is not paid in gold or blood, but in the courage to bear responsibility, to stand when others fall, to be both stone and flame. Here, at the end of legend, the answer is yours to wield. Draw the lesson from shadow and flame. Greatness is not a story told by others, but a burden chosen in silence and carried with resolve. In Alexander's restless fire and Churchill's indomitable will, you have seen the myth stripped bare, a path revealed for those bold enough to walk it. Every trial you face, every doubt you carry, is an invitation to step beyond ordinary fate and join the lineage of those who rose by carrying more. Your burdens are not signs of weakness, but calls to mastery. This is the law of kingship, to meet the world's weight with your own unbreakable will, to transform the ache of responsibility into a crown only you can bear. So, fallen king, step forward, not for applause, not for conquest, but to claim the throne of self-mastery. Let your life become the echo of legends, the one who rises not by evading the burden, but by embracing it until it yields its secret power. The night is thick with memory and hope, the ancient stones trembling with the steps of those who dared more. Above, new stars ignite, each a testament to burdens borne, fires endured, destinies chosen in silence. You, fallen king, now stand where legends have walked, the echoing threshold between shadow and flame, silence and thunder. The world awaits not another conqueror, but a sovereign who turns trial into meaning and burden into the unbreakable foundation of legacy. Carry these words as your crown. The journey begins where the burden is heaviest. Will you take up the fire and shape it, or be shaped by it? This is the cost and the glory of the burden of responsibility.